Before we begin, I am going to take a moment to explain how to use the GoToWebinar technology. In particular, I'm going to show you some of the features that allow you to make this presentation more interactive. You should see the control panel pictured on your screen right now. If you don't, it may be minimized, and you can pull it back out by going to the Grab tab, item B, which hides and shows the control panel. There is also an attendee list where you can see all the participants on the call. And if you have a question, please use the question pane, item D, where you can type in your question here, and I can read it out loud to the group or submit it to our panelists to respond. All the panes here can be expanded or minimized with the plus or minus sign at the top left of each pane. And in the past, we have had some difficulty with the audio. If for some reason you're having difficulty being heard, you will want to make sure that you're not muted on your personal phone and that you've entered the audio pin provided to you at the beginning of the call. If that doesn't work, you can also hang up and call back in, and be sure to enter the audio pin. With that, I will turn it over to Lisa Nipsa to begin.
Thank you, Caitlin. Welcome, everyone. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on ATD's YouTube channel. And those of you that are registered will receive the slides from this presentation following the presentation. I'm Lisa Nitsa, the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships, and you've been hearing from Caitlin Donnelly, who works very closely with me and is our Strategic Partnerships Coordinator. We are going to be covering in this webinar why we're doing technology solutions webinars, and who our panelists are, and what we're presenting. Today, you're going to be listening to a presentation on aligning advising and technology services to improve student achievement. And really, it's going to be a coverage of the lessons learned from what we refer to as IPAS, Round 1 grants by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Achieving the Dream understands that increasingly often the solutions that our network colleges are adopting to improve student persistence, completion, and the attainment of market-valued credentials involve the use of technology. So we created a webinar series for our network colleges intended to provide information about technology solutions that their peers have found particularly successful in improving student success outcomes. It gives all of us an opportunity to stay abreast of the rapidly changing education technology environment by hearing stories from our colleges about what's working for them and the impact that technology's had on their ability to collect and use data, something that is near and dear to our heart at ATD, as you all know, and use it to bring about institutional change. I'd like to introduce our panelists today. We are so appreciative of them taking the time to be with us. Tawny Townsend, the Director for Student Access and First-Year Experience at Whatcom Community College in Bellingham, Washington. Whatcom has been in the ATD network for 4 years. And Greg Ratliff, the Senior Program Officer at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. After the presentation, we're going to open the call up for questions. So please, as the presentation is going along, submit questions as they occur to you. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Greg, who's going to talk about the IPAS program and how the Gates Foundation developed it and launched its first round.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. I thought I would start by giving you a little bit of background about the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I don't know how familiar any of you are with our work. I work in our post-secondary success program, and our focus really is on increasing college completion rates, particularly for low-income and first-generation college students. I work specifically in our personalized learning activity, we focus on 4 core areas. One is personalizing higher education, sort of tailoring it to the needs of students, increasing the flexibility of the pathway through which students can acquire a degree, the clarity of information available to make informed decisions about which institution and what degree has value, and also some work on financial aid around affordability of higher education. Next slide. So the focus of our work, you can skip that one too, is really on personalizing education, and that's really where I focus. And we have 2 main strands of work. One is on digital learning and courseware, and that's very much focused on improving the content of what's being taught to students through more adaptive learning engines and making it more interactive. We're also big proponents of blended learning, which is an environment where you have content delivered online in lecture, and you use the classroom very differently in terms of having the faculty member there answer questions for students. What we're going to talk about today is integrated planning and advising services. What we realized is even if we got really cool courses built, students would be able to complete that course, but they needed support in navigating the institution and stitching together the right set of courses that would lead to a credential with value in the labor market. Next slide. Our approach is one of trying to accelerate the market. We feel like a lot of these things are already happening, but we really want to be in a position of helping vendors and providers of educational technology work with colleges to improve the quality of that technology so it better fits the needs of institutions. You can skip the next slide. So this slide represents sort of the student life cycle, and most students come in as an applicant. They get enrolled, and then they hopefully graduate and become an alumni. And what you find in the higher ed space that's really interesting is that there is a lot of technology at the beginning and the end of the process. So strategic enrollment management is a big space where institutions use technology to reach students, and alumni relationships. But what you find in the middle is that when students get into the institution, there's actually very little technology available to help institutional actors monitor student progress and keep them engaged. Why this is important is that most students, if you look on the far right, out of a sample of 828, and on the far left, students come into college and they don't go in a straight line. On the far right of this slide, you see that 4-year students on track was only 6% of the total sample size. And those percentages continue to go down, actually, as you go across. So part of this visualizes the need for better advising and support services for students, and that's really what we're focused on today. Our approach has focused on 3 core components, and that includes degree planning tools, early alert tools, and coaching and advising tools. And we think that there are a number of things you could do, but if we get these 3 organized well, we can really help students get through very successfully. Our definition of IPAS is really that it's an institution-wide commitment to student success, that it requires not only a flexible technology infrastructure, but also coordinated business processes, sort of redesign advising, that is supported by that technology. And really important to us is student-facing tools, because even if you get a system that's very powerful, you don't have the advisor-student ratio to help all the students. And more importantly, a lot of students can help themselves if you've got the right information and the right tools available for them. So why implement IPAS? The primary reasons for the Foundation's interest in engaging you and others in this work is really improving student retention, progression, and graduation rates, and that's our long-term goal. We also think that it can help reduce the time to degree. A lot of the degree planning tools that Whatcom, for instance, have adopted are targeted to reduce the number of excess credits that students have and get them on the path with the right number of credits towards graduation. And we think over time, as institutions get more sophisticated in which students need help and concentrating their efforts with those students and letting the students that are going to be all right continue on, you can actually improve the allocation of scarce resources. So I just briefly want to take you into each of these three areas in a little more detail. So in terms of degree planning, our focus is really on guiding courses, and I think of this as going all the way to career exploration and then backing into what majors lead to that career, and then based on those majors, which one do I like and what courses do I need to sign up right away. At the bottom of this slide, you can see some data from Arizona State University, which is a pioneer in the space, in terms of the improvement in retention rates and students being on track semester to semester. In terms of, next slide, coaching and advising, most students can use an online degree planning tool, but they still want to check in with an adult to know that I've signed up for the right classes and that their schedule has been blessed. And so integrating the degree planning with the coaching and advising conversation we think is really important in terms of helping students feel confident about their career, educational, and financial choices. At the bottom of the slide are some statistics from Sinclair Community College that point that out. Risk targeting and early alert. So this is a relatively new area and a new set of technologies that has come out. And what's exciting to me about this space is that it really provides an opportunity for an institution, once a student has their degree plan in there, to actually monitor student progress during a course in each semester, as well as monitoring student progress over multiple semesters. And the alert system is a way of faculty and other institutional actors letting the advising staff know that a particular student is struggling, and the redesigned business processes allow for that institution to reach out with the right kind of support to that student. Let me talk a little bit about sort of the current marketplace here. And when we started this work about 2.5, 3 years ago, this is sort of the set of vendors that were in the space. And what's interesting to me about this slide is the top row are a lot of the vendors that you're familiar with. And what we found with our conversations with these vendors is that they have a huge installed base, and if you can push an innovation through there, you can get adoption really quickly. The challenge is that they're pretty comfortable with the market that they have, and they're not necessarily that innovative. And the next row down are where we're seeing a lot of innovation and a lot of new entrants to the space. And so some really exciting things happening there. We can skip this slide. That's really about our approach. So the slide that we just passed over is the list of colleges that are participating in the initial pilot of IPAS. And you'll see that it's a mix of 2- and 4-year institutions, urban and rural. I imagine that many of these institutions you're familiar with, but I point them out as just so you can sort of see the technology vendors that they're working with and the issues that they're working on. But let me turn now just to sort of what have we learned from this first year and what kinds of things the colleges are learning. So it's all been good news in general. So for instance, many of the colleges have seen an increase in full-time enrollment. CCA has their 15 to finish approach, and you're seeing a lot of positive things there that are happening. Sorry, my computer just died. Increase in retention rates. So this is the one thing that we're really tracking very closely, and we're seeing some very positive results in terms of, sort of 7 to 10% has been the average increase in term-to-term retention. A couple of things that have been surprising. Morgan State has about 6,000 students at their university. When they turned on their early alert system, they had 20,000 flags raised. And that's about 4.5 per student, and you know that that's skewed towards probably about 2,000 out of their 6,000 students. And so while these systems are really helping institutions understand better where their students are and which students need help, we're still working through some of the kinks in terms of how do we triage that and how do we make sure that we prioritize those students with the most urgent need. Next slide. And the vendor side, I think some interesting evolutions have happened as well. So you remember that there are about 20 companies on that previous slide that showed the vendors. We've just had Titan Partners do a landscape analysis for us. They've identified 120 vendors that are in the space. So we're seeing more vendors entering the space. And then we're also seeing the list of vendors on this slide is some merger and acquisition activity where vendors have seen the benefits of this particular technology and how it is helping institutions and moves to acquire different technology companies in order to provide a more comprehensive suite of services for institutions. So from the Foundation's perspective, we're excited that we've been able to help institutions do a better job of monitoring students and helping vendors understand the kinds of features and functionality that colleges really need. Some of the things that we're also learning is that implementing the technology is not the easiest thing, and different vendors provide different levels of support to the institution. If there are CIOs on the call, you'll recognize some of these challenges and not be surprised by them. But we've also begun work with IMS Global around system interoperability in the hopes that we can reduce some of the risk in this side. Okay. So I just wanted to leave you with a couple of highlights. Like our interest at the Foundation is really in expanding the use of the tools. That's part of the reason that I'm on this webinar now. But we're also seeing some trends, and EDUCAUSE did some work for us on market interest in higher education for IPAS technology. And what they found is that interest is really growing among higher ed practitioners. And on the next slide, we've got some statistics about how higher ed leaders view the role of advising technology. And many of them on the right see this kind of technology increasing on their campuses in the next 5 years or so. Next slide. And then the other thing that's interesting is that they also see some of the other technologies that are there, the third one down, early alert systems, as being something that they are planning to deploy at their institutions. And the very bottom one, CRM, what we've seen in some of the IPAS institutions is that they're interested in providing a unified user experience has led them to start to use CRM systems as a way of managing their relationship or customer relationship with students. That's still a small but growing part of the overall effort. So now I'm going to turn it over to Tawny, who is one of the colleges that participated in the initial pilot, to talk about her experience.
Wonderful. Thank you, Greg. I'd like to start with providing some background information about Whatcom Community College. Next slide. So we are located in beautiful Bellingham, Washington. This is midway between Seattle, Washington and Vancouver, BC. So we are just about 20 to 25 minutes south of the Canadian border. Next slide. So we'll take a look at the student profile from our initial year of IPAS. This is 2012-2013. And you can see from this slide that the majority of our population is from our local county. We have about 35% of our students are first-generation college students, 20% of our students are students of color, and we actually have, for the size of our institution, a large running start student population, which is high school students who are studying and taking courses at the college level here on our campus, as well as international students. Next slide. So the two types of programs that we offer at Whatcom Community College are transfer programs and professional technical programs. So what you see here is just a sampling of our transfer programs. About 80% of our students are university bound, and so that makes our situation in Bellingham pretty unique because we are also co-located with a technical college as well as a university. So our focus is very much on transfer within the liberal arts as well as within the sciences. Next slide. We also have a number of career programs, what we refer to as professional technical programs within areas of business, computer technology, education and law, and healthcare. Next slide. So one question that Whatcom Community College was asked in preparation for this presentation is why IPAS? Why did we begin the IPAS project, and what led us to apply? Next slide. Next slide. Thank you. So as Greg mentioned, there are a handful of strategies that IPAS focuses on. The educational planning, risk targeting and intervention, counseling and coaching are the three main strategies that Whatcom was particularly interested in, as well as the focus on first generation and low income students that fits so many of our students here at Whatcom Community College. So IPAS at Whatcom Community College really has focused on degree planning, early alert, and also virtual orientation. So what we're really looking for with IPAS and with our choice for Hobson's technology is really solutions that were scalable for us. We have a very limited staff, particularly within student services. So trying to leverage technology to be able to meet some of our goals, looking at things like reducing excess credits for students who are reaching graduation with too many credits compared to what the degree requirements are. We're also looking to jumpstart retention, particularly in the second year, and also transform some of our business processes internally. We're also ready for change here on our campus. We're in our fourth year of Achieving the Dream now. We're about midway through as an ATD school when IPAS became available. And we had really, through the ATD process, we had really strengthened a lot of relationships here on campus between our different areas, our different departments, and different work units, particularly the relationship between student services and IT. This gave us a nice foundation for continued partnership with the IPAS initiative. We're also ready to build on some of those early successes from Achieving the Dream, namely our first year experience and also some of the math and English placement and progression advances that we're really working to make and that are still in progress. We also saw a continued need to improve student retention and student completion, as I think many schools do. This may be unique to Whatcom, it may not, but we have a very, very antiquated student management system, and many of our processes have been paper-based historically. So we're ready for kind of a technology boost to help move us into sort of our next generation of student services. Here on this slide you see some of the growth that we've experienced in terms of first-year retention. What you don't see on this slide necessarily is the flatter rates that we've been seeing with student retention in the second year and also completion. So we're really looking to build off of this growth from the first year experience. Next slide. So I'd like to talk about some of our early successes with two of our key efforts, Agile Grad and Early Alert. Agile Grad is an online degree planning tool that we've used specifically with a focus on transfer. So many of our students, as I mentioned, 80% of our students are transfer bound. And what we tend to focus on here at Whatcom Community College is a strong major preparation focus rather than degrees that are major ready in and of themselves. So as we're working with 80% of our population, we were looking for an online solution to build out kind of accessibility and some of that hands-on feel for degree planning for students who are comparing majors and trying to decide what their pathway might be. So here on the slide you see, and I'll refer to AgileGrad as the online degree planning tool, you see some of our early successes and our progress to date. We have over 2,000 degree plans built to date, and 51% of our full-time, first-time in college students completed degree plans this fall. Our IPAS goal that we set for ourselves was 50%, so we're pretty excited about surpassing that goal by 1%. Something that's important to understand when talking about IPAS and talking about implementation is that we don't have a lot of mandatory processes at our institution. So the only two groups that we actually use AgileGrad for on a mandatory basis are first-year experience success course students and also students who are submitting applications for academic reinstatement. So it's actually a pretty small group, somewhere around maybe 400 students per year. So you get a sense of growth compared to who this is mandatory for. If you look to the top,
could you?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Tawny, but I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about the peak in October. So that's sort of a lot of degree plans that are built, and are students all doing that themselves, or are they working with advisors, and how do you manage that?
Sure. So yes, absolutely. What you see in the top left-hand side of the screen is a chart, and these are snapshots from the analytics that are provided with AgileGrad. You see basically the first couple of months within our quarter. And in October, you see this spike. And that spike is basically when we are offering workshops on degree planning and AgileGrad that directly follow some career assessments within the first year success course. So because we have such limited staffing, and I'll talk about this in just a moment as well, because we have such limited staffing within our advising, we've needed to find creative solutions to kind of capture an audience and maximize advisor time. So what we do is we bring in 2 advisors into each student success course in the 4th week of the quarter. And they present they present within a computer lab about degree planning, the importance of degree planning, aligning degree and educational plans with career goals, et cetera, et cetera. And within that workshop, students are able to get hands-on, log into their AgileGrad accounts, and build their plans for the first time. So what you see with that big spike in October is basically students within the student success courses within those workshops creating their plans. If you look below that on the left-hand side, you see directly after that spike a lot of peaks. And what we've done, again, to kind of maximize students' time with advisors and maximize the use of advisors' limited time, is that we follow up from that initial workshop within the student success course by scheduling out mandatory advising appointments with the students and the advisors. So as the advisors and students meet over the next couple of weeks, their focus is really to refine their plans that have already been created and start to explore in more depth career focus, other co-curricular opportunities, that sort of thing. So that's where you see all of that activity directly following that initial spike.
Got it. I really like the fact that you follow up with the students after they've built the plan, because I know the first choice is not always the best.
This is correct. And for some students, we build multiple plans, and we're continuously updating. So next slide, please. So as we move to our next slide, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the challenge that we face at Whatcom Community College, which I'm fairly certain is not unique just to our institution, and that is that we have a very limited resource, and that's our advisors' time. So we have this big challenge as we embarked on IPAS, and as we continue to adopt IPAS and integrate it within our advising model of lean staffing and then also non-mandatory processes. So I mentioned our first year experience student success course and how we've embedded Agile Grad, the degree planning, and the follow-up into that course, and that becomes part of a final project, so it is a requirement for each student that's in the course. And then we've also started just this year creating a series of workshops called Developing Futures. So we have 2 advisors that specialize in Agile Grad in particular who are offering a series of workshops on majors like engineering and business. And the whole point of the workshop is to bring students in who might be seeking the same major or considering the same major, present information about that major, really help students to understand the process of academic planning, advising, career direction, that sort of thing, and then once again, hands-on within a computer lab, actually log into Agile Grad and start creating their plans. So that's also been an effective way to bring students together so that they can help each other and also work with advisors kind of in a group setting. So like I mentioned, the benefit to that is also the follow-up in advising sessions. And I think this is honestly probably one of our biggest wins when it comes to Agile Grad. And that is that because we've moved to more of a digital system and because we're in a savvy way leveraging that scarce resource of advisors' time, we're able to really focus on refining those plans, exploring career directions, and truly digging into true advising within the advising sessions rather than focusing on mapping out degree requirements, prerequisites and things like that. So we've improved accessibility, we've created that opportunity for more self-direction, and I think more self-authorship is what we're seeing from students. So finally, I'd like to share some information about Early Alert and our experience with Early Alert. So once again, as Greg had mentioned, Early Alert is a system for risk identification. So this is a web-based system. We're using Hobson's technology. It's a web-based system where faculty are able to submit either attendance alerts or academic alerts on students so that advising staff and student services staff and a handful of faculty as well can respond to some of those concerns. One piece that I will mention is that we're referring to Early Alert as Early Alert referrals in an attempt to kind of drive home that point that this is not a report or reporting system, but it's a referral system. So what we've seen so far in terms of early successes and some challenges is that we have about 2/3 of our target faculty participating so far in Early Alert. So 46% of all of our faculty are participating. We had a 70% IPAS goal that we are still stretching to meet. And with that, each quarter we see over 600 alerts submitted, and that's for over 400 students. So some of our students have multiple alerts. So what happens after an alert is submitted is, I think, where we're learning quite a bit of, we're gaining quite a bit of knowledge about our students and seeing the biggest impact as well. So some of our support strategies, something that's very helpful because of the limited resources that we have, is the automated emails that are built into the Early Alert system. So once an alert is submitted, we can schedule emails to go out to students on a daily basis. As well, we pulled down that information about what kind of alert was submitted for which students, and we've been following up with phone calls and some coaching sessions. So we've decided to follow a similar model as one of our other Washington State community colleges, who's also an ATD school, so Spokane Falls, if you're on the line, thank you for your help. And we've built out an Early Alert team to make phone calls out to students and check in, to make some referrals and a lot of coaching students on how to communicate with their faculty. So that Early Alert team consists of both faculty as well as some of our student services staff. So they go through FERPA training and some of the referral training that we have on a basic level for our advisors. I should mention too that the faculty who are participating in this, in the phone calling and the outreach, are faculty that also teach in our first year success course. So this is a interdisciplinary cohort of faculty who are very much committed to student success and to stepping out of some of their usual role in their discipline instruction to have approached working with students in a different way. So as a result, what we've seen, and I should mention that we take a baseline assumption that if a student has had an alert reported or referred for them, that we're assuming that at that point in the quarter that it's unlikely that the student will pass the course. And that's essentially the benchmark that we ask for faculty to use in those referrals. So from there, we've seen what we classify as completion rate, marginal completion rate for C- and D grades, non-completion students who receive or earn an F grade or a U in unsuccessful or unsatisfactory grade, and then also kind of an other category, students who may have withdrawn, for instance, or worked out some kind of incomplete arrangement with their instructors. So what we're seeing is about a 50% completion rate. So students who have been on early alert are completing those courses, or at least half of them are, and almost another 20% who are working out some other solution, whether that's continuing the course beyond the end of the quarter with a special arrangement or making the active decision to withdraw from the course. So we're still seeing a 31% non-completion rate, but we're viewing that very much as a win from a baseline of non-completion.
Terrific. Thank you so much. I wanted to make sure we had some time for questions from the audience. And I might start out with one that we have, which is, Tawny, how did your institution get started on this IPAS work? I mean, once you decided to engage, how did you get going?
Well, we, at the time, we had our former Vice President for Student Services, who has since retired, had a very strong partnership with our IT director, and they were contacted and informed about the opportunity through some of our Achieving the Dream efforts. And so, of course, we were very interested to build off of some of the successes and, of course, to address some of the struggles that we had throughout ATD time. And it was a very quick but thoughtful application process. We interviewed a number of different solution providers and decided that really having an integrated system with going with one company, Hobson's, with all of the solutions that we were looking for was really something that we needed to pursue with the resources that we have. And so along with that, we had some limitations with our antiquated student management system that, frankly, just wouldn't function with some of the solutions that were out there. So that's how we initially got involved.
So Tawny, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the faculty adoption figure, and you sort of mentioned that you're behind your goal, and you also mentioned that you had faculty who were also teaching the first year success course. Is there sort of overlap? Is that 46% of faculty only those faculty who are teaching the first year success course and they're sort of motivated to participate? And how do you think about the other faculty that may not be as engaged in student success but more just in sort of the delivery of their disciplinary content? And what are you thinking of doing to get them excited about this effort?
That is our question of every day. At this point, we are, so thank you for asking. We've been thinking about that pretty deeply and consistently. Initially and I should start with answering the first question of, is that 46% the instructors for the student success course? And the short answer is no. We have about 12 faculty who teach in our student success course, and so this number is much greater. We're looking at about approximately 100 faculty participating. So we actually piloted the early alert system last year to work out some of the technological issues and kind of iron out some of those details so that we could go with a full implementation this year. So we did have some early buy-in by some faculty from last year. But other than that, I think it's part of it is institutional culture of faculty being engaged and wanting to support their students in any way that they can. But at the same time, we also have some issues with, again, with technology, I think, in relation to faculty not participating. So we look at the non-participation group, for example, of faculty, and the majority of those faculty are adjunct faculty who may not be on our campus as much or may have multiple demands outside of campus, and so they may not be as well positioned to submit the alerts. We also see a lot of unopened emails, which I'm sure other campuses are familiar with. This is some of the benefit of the analytics behind the system. And so, we're struggling with that piece of how do we communicate with faculty, what do we communicate, and through whom do we communicate. And so we've created a team, an early alert team, that is basically a guiding body for the development of the program itself, how we respond, how we garner buy-in. And on that team, we've decided to include 2 faculty early alert coordinators this year. And so their role is very specific to working with faculty to garner buy-in, to help coach how to use the system and get past some of those kind of early technological hurdles. In addition to that, it gives us an opportunity to communicate back and forth and get the different perspectives of the different stakeholders. We've decided to route a lot of our communication through our Dean for Instruction, with the goal and the hope that faculty may open and read and respond to emails coming from that individual. Something that we're trying new this quarter, after doing some analysis of non-participation and seeing such high unopened email rates, is we're going back to snail mail. We are working with our marketing office and developing postcards to send out to all faculty, essentially announcing early alert is here, check your inbox, and keep an eye out for those surveys. In addition to that, we're also using the data that we see so far with these completions and communicating that regularly out to faculty so that they can also see, what the benefit is. In addition to that, we're building out a couple of web pages, one student-facing, one faculty-facing. So we're really, honestly, we're really working on communication to try and build that buy-in.
Tawny, thank you very much, and thank you also, Greg. That was incredibly interesting and informative. And just a quick note that we're unfortunately have run out of time. Our presenter's contact information is here for you, and slides will be available afterwards in a follow-up email and also through ATD's college and network updates. For more information on IPAS, we've included a link. IPAS, again, is Integrated Planning and Advising Services. We had a question about that. Caitlin's going to ask for your feedback at this point and launch a quick poll, and then we will let you know about our next webinar.
Yes, thank you all for your participation. I'm launching the poll now, and it just asks a few questions, and please select the statements with which you agree. This call was useful and informative. I enjoyed the webinar format. This webinar gave me new ideas that we could implement. There was enough time for questions and discussion, and this call did not meet my expectations. So I will give you a minute to respond. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Our next webinar is going to be on Wednesday, May 20th, and the title will be Investing in Success, Sustainably Implementing High-Impact Educational Practices. And we'll be hearing from Ivy Tech Community College and they will be discussing how they have successfully implemented high-impact practices in their enrollment process with solutions from Blackboard Education Services to ensure prospective students are on track for success. Thanks again so much to Greg and Tawny, and thank you to all of you who joined us. It was a very large group today. All the best.